So this is the very first time that I've ever filmed on such a large sensor, and it is very different. It's very different to what I'm used to, which is the 35mm sensor, the APS-C, that style, or micro four thirds, the smaller one. And putting a lens like this on, which is the Helios 44-2, allowed me to use the entire sensor without needing to crop in to compensate for a lens that's not made for that sensor. So this sensor on the URSA Cine 12K, it's really unlike anything I've ever shot on before. It's very different to any of the other Blackmagic sensors. It allows you to get what feels like a bigger frame. There's a feeling that you get when you look at a shot done on a Super 35 sensor or a full frame or large format sensor. There's something that you see and feel, and it's sometimes hard to put your finger on it, but it is different. There is a change. So what I want to do is look at some of the shots from the short, and I want to break them down in terms of lighting, camera move, and composition. So this first shot I want to look at it's not the opening of the film, but it's one of the earlier shots. It's the first time you get to see his workbench, and it establishes where we are. You know, in the shots before, we've been on little details and sort of alluding to what's going on. But this shot here is the first time we get to see the space. And this is where the URSA Cine 12K really showcases what it's capable of from the limited time that I had with it. You can see the exterior is very hot, it's very bright, it's middle of the day. Interior, there's a lamp. So at the back is an aperture Amaran, I think it's the 200 by, that's shooting up at the ceiling, just bouncing and dispersing the light to give a bit of a broad blanket of soft light. And then there's a little Nanlite 60 with a softbox shooting camera left and just flooding the area with just a little bit of fill. And that's the only light. They're not very bright, they're not even set to 100%. And that is really giving you an idea of what this camera is capable of. And you can see into the darkest part of the shadows, and every highlight is retained all the way to the white wall on the exterior, which, you know, it's different. So that has given me a lot more flexibility in the way I shot this. I didn't really realize that that was possible. It's got a much higher dynamic range than any other camera I've used, because I've predominantly used Blackmagic cameras, so I haven't been exposed to ARRIs or REDs that much. But was very forgiving. So I'll play this clip through and you can see what's actually happening in this shot. So the camera's dollying into Robert, our woodworker, and I didn't want to do too much with the lighting. I wanted to try and enhance what the natural light was doing and be able to just see what the sensor was capable of. So I'll show you what it looks like with the grade switched off, and you can see how much information is still in this image. It's a huge amount. And I'd made a LUT to darken everything in camera on the day so that I was exposing more and giving more information to the camera, but what I was seeing was a darkened down image. So I was lighting for the image. I was lighting for the LUT that I put on the camera. So the next shot I want to look at is another pretty tricky shot. So we set the little slider up just underneath the workbench, and we were doing a push in, tilt up, and a rotation around the piece that he was working on, and finally ending on his face. In terms of what I'm used to, it was for me it was quite a complicated move, trying to get the focus right and trying to keep it smooth and stable all at the same time, on a very small lens with a very shallow depth of field on a very large sensor. So you can see as we push in, and I am able to reframe slightly top and bottom. When we push up, get the focus on his eyes and rotate with him. And we go into the next shot. So this shot, the light has been kept the same. It's been kept as it was from before. So we had done the wide shot and we moved in for the close-up. I didn't do any adjusting. I just sort of kept the light that way. And that's sort of what I was trying to do, was light the space so I'm able to shift around and not change too much unless I change direction. So I'm still facing the same direction, I'm shooting in the same way, so the lighting didn't need to change at all. And we can have a look here at what the ungraded shot looks like. There we go. Grade on, grade off. You can see how much information there is even in that light. And I'd like to look at a handheld shot, which I was very pleased with the way this looked. And this is another instance where I'm trying to hold focus on his face. And I cut out the middle section of the camera move, which is walking in towards him slowly and then dropping down to the piece. I cut out the move and I just went in and then cut to that second shot. And that's another thing that is quite handy to do is if you're going to be doing a camera move and you want to move to a different thing, try and incorporate the whole shot with the camera move as part of the shot so that it can be used in one take or sliced up into two separate shots, and you maximize what you're capable of. So instead of walking in, stopping, resetting as a different shot, walk in, drop down, and then possibly go back up again and then back out. You've incorporated 4 different shots into one single take, and you haven't changed that much. You've shot them as though they're one single piece, and they can be used as so. So this is what I'll show you with this one, is what it looked like as open gate. And this is the shot as open gate. Big frame, really interesting. You've got a lot of room to adjust your image up and down once you crop in. So this is just a little showcase of the lens and what the lens flare looks like. It's very strange, very interesting. I'm quite a big fan of this lens. It's got a very interesting look. You know, all of this, as much as possible, I was using the light that was there and then just enhancing it, just adding to it so it's consistent, or, you know, adding a bit of fill to places that I thought were a bit dark. But mostly this is almost all natural light with a little bit of extra help from small portable lights. So this shot here is one of my favorites. It's a very simple shot. It starts on him with his work in the bottom of frame, and then we slowly push in and just tilt down softly to the piece. And as we get closer, the effect of the depth of field gets more. It feels shallower and shallower and shallower as we move closer and closer. And we'll look at one more shot, which is In terms of focusing, this was the trickiest because it was the longest rack focus that I had to do. So it starts off with Robert at his chest, and we've come from a close-up of him taking out his tools, and now we're going to follow him and rack in all the way to when he places them down. And you've got about 3 meters of distance there. So for a small lens like this, that's quite a lot of distance to travel and try and nail the focus, especially when the focus ring's as thick as my thumb. So I easily move it over and slip onto the aperture. So trying to keep that as it is quite challenging. So you can see him walk in, the rack starts, and I come down, and then I slowly bring it down to what he's looking at and finish, almost delay the focus onto those pieces. So I'm not anticipating what he's going to do. I'm hopefully making it feel like the camera operating is reacting to what he's doing and not trying to preempt the focus for what he's doing. So it's something you can do if you've set up a scene for your documentary. You can do this to give it a bit more of a real feel, where you don't perfectly bring the focus almost before he gets to where he's going to stop because you've asked him to go there. You allow the focus to just hang back a little bit, and as he puts his pieces down, your focus is still coming into the final resting position. It's a nice way of just adding a touch of realism to something that you've set up, which we did for this shot. We asked him to go there and end up where he placed his pieces. The rest of it we didn't. The rest of it we just asked him to work, and we worked around him. This is the one shot where we actually got him to do a specific move to make it work. Being able to shoot this little project on this camera, I only had the camera for about 5 hours, so it was all very much, here's the camera, here's this massive sensor, this little lens, go. And it was a lot of fun. It was new, it was interesting. I'd like to get my hands on the Cine again. I really want to shoot a bit more. I want to test it outdoors with, bright sunlight and deep shadows, and I want to test things. I want to shoot a bit more, and I am going to get my hands on it again. So luckily there's going to be a follow-up video to this showcasing different aspects of the camera, and I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to showing you what I get.